The format for this meeting is a 10-minute speaker, our secretary's announcement, a coffee and snack break, and our main speaker. Our first speaker for tonight is Scott.
Hi, I'm Scott. I'm an alcoholic. Grateful to be clean and sober. Grateful to be in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank you to the Sanctuary Group for inviting us up here from Orange County, from Irvine, and had a great ride up here with Frank. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We read how it works, and it means like getting up here in front of a big group. I can feel them shaking and baking a little bit too. I brought a handkerchief in case I started sweating. I mean, that's usually I forget to breathe. It's like what a novel concept. Of deep abdominal breaths and trying to catch up with that heart rate and brain waves and whatnot. But I love Alcoholics Anonymous. It's the best thing that ever happened to me, and I hope you find here what I found here is something vastly more sufficient than being in my disease, my drinking and drugging history. It's been awesome, and I didn't know how the world would open up, in this way. Things really gelling. My story is of being in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous for 28 years, and so the trick I found is to not die. If you can not pick up again, not die, and it can be a real win. And what I love about this opportunity of carrying the message or helping others has been just the greatest gift I could have received, and I found it to be grace. As far as relapse is concerned, it's a big part of my story is that the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. So I don't beat myself up today. It's that self-hatred is another first step problem. It's an obsession of the mind that I'm powerless over, and what's happened is God, my higher power, has removed that, and I've been transformed, from the inside out. And so I hope I can be up here to tell the truth a little bit about what it was like, what happened, what it's like now, and so my sobriety day is March 3rd of this year, of 2024. I have 97 days clean and sober, and for that I'm eternally grateful. It's a sobriety date that I want to keep, and I'll do whatever it takes to maintain it. And so I want to talk about a little about that is, once I get started drinking, I can't stop, and even after being sober for a while, I drink again. But I also have that spiritual malady, so as that time I'm going to start to pick up again. That spring in my belly tightens, and life becomes untenable. I become restless, irritable, discontent. My default is to seek fast-acting pain relief, and the tragic thing is I'm not aware. Like I forget that I have parents and children and friends who care about me, and I'm slowly killing myself. And the tragedy is that in the program of self-discovery is that I didn't even know who I was killing, and that three component disease, and I got it. And so what I do is I just beg God. I beg my higher power to get me clean, sober again. And really, one of my insanities is that I categorize substances, and I think that the booze was making me so sick that I'll do drugs, and the drugs make me just as sick, and if not more. I lost decades, So what happened 98 days ago? I scared my children and my parents for one last time, and the children are so sensitive too. It's like they have ESP when something's going sideways, just a slight in the text, and they recoil. They reject, and it's just another sad tragedy. I never want to repeat. No repeat performances, and so what I did is I got busy, and what happened is I've been pretty well pre-programmed to get back into service and do the steps, concentrate on my recovery, and do a lot of service. And in this last 97 days, I haven't felt particularly sick. 98 days ago, I was smoking crystal meth, and what happened was I haven't felt particularly sick or very disturbed by something. I still tailspin maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks for a couple hours, or somebody looks at me wrong, or I get thrown off, and I forget that God's taking care of me, and that's, I can honestly think I forget, just like I forget that my children, it's been proven over and over again how God's watching out for me. He's got me here, alive, upright, talking about it, clean and sober, and in one piece, 98% in one piece. I lost a right kidney on one of my personal adventures, and so that is a power I want to get to know better, and that's a power worth getting to do business with. And so, so what I do is I've been cleaning house I'm still about 80 grand in debt to American Express. It's part of my ninth step is paying them back. I spent their money. And does anybody else have credit card debt? Anybody show of hands? Is that major debt? Any other phonies in the room? No, anyone? I'm a big phony, and so I don't pay my bills, and I lie, cheat, and steal, and I can do that in sobriety. In fact, I've found that steps 4 through 10 are all about behavior, and I found even my behavior in sobriety, if my behavior is not congruent with God's will, is I'll pay a price, a serious spiritual price, gets me closer to a drink or a drug, and. So recently I've been treated for a health matter, and it's directly related to my behavior, and so it's what I've been doing in the here and now. I've been it really knocked me out the last couple of days. The treatment, antibiotics, and I slept like 12 hours last night, and I was really just like hibernating. I fielded some phone calls today, and that's when I knew. I was nervous about coming up here and sharing today, but what happened was it's maybe just God's grace and undeserved gift, where it's like that. What happened was I started to remember what I wanted to talk about tonight, and so my message is, trust God, clean house, help others, just like Dr. Bob's prescription. That's working for me. And the maintenance steps, 10, 11, 12. I continue to clean house and set right any new wrongs. And I was talking to Frank on Wednesday, what day were we talking? This week in Laguna Beach about what it says on page 84 in the 10th step. It says, our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. And I really like that part about growing, understanding, and effectiveness, and that's my job today, is to carry the message, be of maximum service to God and others, and how I can seek their needs rather than my own selfishness and self-centeredness, and so I got that too, and that thing about grow or go, it's a real stretch, even stretching, getting stronger, and that empathy, the world can always use more empathy, and trying to understand where someone else is coming from, maybe what their injuries are, what their experience is, so that I can relate to them, or I can be helpful to them. And there's no shame in this game. And my fifth step stuff was not. I didn't invent any new words for behavior. It's all been done before. There's a word in the dictionary for that stuff, and or whatever the professional, the DSM or something. So. So what I was thinking about is I saw a podcast today with Lex Friedman, and he was talking about in that movie American Beauty, where there's just a moment in there. There's a note on a bulletin board when Lester's in his office, and it says, "Look closer." And I think of that when I'm cutting someone up inside my ear, in between my ears, and judging someone, whether it's in me or elsewhere. Is look closer. Like what do I have to look at? Can I really see past maybe what that person is saying into maybe who they really are, or what's going on with them? That understanding, growing in understanding and effectiveness, and look closer to all the awesome things that are going on. And so what I do up front is I front load with the prayer, God help me, 3rd step prayer, 7th step prayer, 11th step prayer, and then I backfill with a gratitude list. What's going right? What are the good things going on? And there's just so much awesome stuff that is available to all of us in recovery. And it's the 12 steps are available to everybody. I encourage everybody to do maybe 5 simple things. It's, what I do is I don't drink, I go to meetings, I have a sponsor, I work the steps, and I have commitments. And that's been awesome. Enough out of me. How much time I got, Ryan?
A minute and a half.
All right, we'll run it out there and say thanks again for the Sanctuary Group for welcoming us, and I hope everyone has a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Scott. Now, our main speaker will share his experience, strength, and hope with us. Please join me in welcoming Frank H. from Laguna Beach.
Hello, everybody. My name is Frank, and I'm an alcoholic. And after a few beers, I test positive for cocaine every time. Yeah. But evidently, my booze bone is connected to my drug bone, which is connected to my screw everything and everybody else, and I could care less about anything but getting wasted bone. I don't know if you can relate, but I'm happy to be here tonight. You know, I know some speakers come around and they say, well, was the traffic, this, that, and the other thing. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be here Saturday night and never been to this meeting before, and I'm happy to be sober, and I'm very excited to be here with you people tonight. So if that pisses you off, welcome, you know. I remember when I was first new, a speaker would come in and I'd be checking out everything about him, you know, and angry, you know, who's this Jack think he is? Well, what's with this? Blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm happy, I'm joyous, and I'm free, and I'm pumped to be here, and hopefully soon you will be if you're already not. So I am from the Bronx in New York, and my name is really Francis. So being a minority white guy in the Bronx in New York and having your name called out in the auditorium every day as Francis didn't work too well, you know? And I go to my mom, why is everybody making fun of my name, Francis? And she goes, oh, no, honey, your name is named after Francis of Assisi. He was a saint from Italy. So armed with that information, I went back in to Public School 132, Arthur Avenue, not far from Yankee Stadium, and I let everybody know that I was named after St. Francis of Assisi. And after that, I was known as Francis is a sissy. So that's why I'm an alcoholic. All right. So thanks for being here tonight, and everybody can get home early. No, but so I go back to mom, and I came back with told her how the information worked so well, and she went to school and told him to call my son Frank, and I've been Frank since. But that's that little tidbit of my drama or PTSD from grade school. So I know I had a pretty good childhood. We ended up moving out when I was in high school to just over the George Washington Bridge into Rockland County in New York. But when growing up, you know, I saw a lot of things, and basically trying to be a chameleon and getting along with everybody was my big thing. And not necessarily people pleaser, but just trying to get along with everybody. So I didn't want to drink. You know, I didn't want to drink or use drugs for that matter, or smoke marijuana or anything like that. I wanted to be, you know, I'm not saying I'm anything better than anybody else, but I was an athlete, and I didn't want to use or drink or do any of that stuff. But on Friday and Saturday nights in high school and stuff like that, you know, that's what everybody was doing. But I still would just like get the beers, tip them out, play drunk, you know. And after doing that for a while, they were on to me. They called me Tipper. And don't give Frank any beer. He's just going to throw it out and pretend he's drunk. We also had, I was fortunate enough to have a summer house on a lake, and like the Poconos in Pennsylvania. And we'd go up there every summer, and I'd stay with my grandmother. And same thing, you know, the keg parties at different farms and different cottages, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Everything seemed to be evolved around drinking beer and getting drunk. And I still wasn't too excited about that idea. I never liked the taste of beer. I said, well, I'd rather drink Coca-Cola than this. And what happened was, I was turning 16. I went to the gym with a friend of mine, and we were coming back to the to one of the cottages that we would go to. Some popular people lived there. And we stopped in, and when we stopped in, boom, it was a surprise party for me for my 16th birthday. And they had a keg there, and a lot of girls and guys there, you know, my age, my peers. And I knew that I wasn't going to get away with tipping my beers that night. So what happened is we got some drinking games. I got picked on. I got drunk. I didn't get wasted. It wasn't my aha moment. But I'll tell you what did happen that night. I made out with Kathy Claus. Now, Kathy Claus these days, you know, 5 kids or something like that. But back when I was 16, you know, she like only dated the high school quarterback, captain of the cheerleaders, all that, and then some. I didn't get far. I mean, this is not a sexologue or anything like that. But I kissed Kathy fucking Claus. That's what I know. You didn't, I did, you know. So I would say this works. You know, this program's working here. So there was a drive-in theater not far from there where all the different people from the different lakes in the area would go and hang out. At midnight every night, they would play the Led Zeppelin movie, Song Remains the Same. And I was invited to drive around this cool guy's convertible. I sat in the back with Kathy Claus, and we got to the drive-in and the theater, and they were passing a joint around. I faked that. I wasn't ready for that big step. I just drank some beer and liked it, So anyway, that was good. But a lot of people say, I drank it, and it was everything for me. It wasn't everything for me, but it was a good time. And what happened to me that night, and I hope you find that it'll happen to you here in this fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, is I became a part of what I interpreted, or my perception is, the cool guys. We would go around in different with the boats at night with the lights off and break into boat docks and steal beers, and it was a lot of fun. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on my childhood there, but it was working for me. Every time that I drank back then and did drugs, I didn't have any problems. I had a good time, And later on, I realized every time I drank, all my problems were caused by drinking and drugging. It was an inverse relationship. So I have what a lot of us have is like this selective amnesia, or this selective memory, where I just remember how fun it was back then, or the week before, of drinking and drugging. That was a great time, And I try to keep capturing that those highs and lows of going out and partying, whatever the terminology you want to use. That's what we used. And it stopped working for me. And an example was, after high school, I did all right, and I went to a big school. It was popular, and I really want to get sober, so I'm going to try to hurry through this. But I have to give you some of my highlights and entertain a little bit. So I was the Rush chairman of Delta Tau Delta, and it was a bigger school. I'm not going to get names. And there were some popular people, from football players and basketball players, that went there too. And I was a lacrosse player, so I'd see them in the locker rooms. And when I was the Rush chairman, this kid came up to me and said, "Hey, I want to get into fraternity." And at our school, we had a lot of people from the Bronx area that were Puerto Rican and different nationalities. And he didn't speak English. And I'm like, well, geez, we'll try, you got to do what everybody else is, but we want to work with you. If we can get you in, we'll get you in. And so with that said, he left, and then, I don't know, maybe a week later, he came back, and we were going back for, I think it was Christmas break, because it was snowy. And when he came back, before he went, he came up to me and goes, "Frank, I just got a grant." And I go, "Hey, grants are great. You don't have to pay those back." He goes, "Yeah, I know. Most of these students that got in, their parents would just pay cash for the college, and they were in." I don't know if it exactly worked that way. I'm not too worried about it either. But this guy had an $8,000 grant, and he wanted to know what we should do. And I didn't know this was a WE fellowship, but it became a WE program real quick, And, well, here's what you should do. I tell you what, when you go back to Puerto Rico on break, why don't you come back with some cocaine, He looks at me, he'd been blinking eye, he understood my language, we rough around the edges and everything else, but go buy cocaine and bring it back. He understood that, So off he went, and he goes, "Is that going to get me in the fraternity?" I go, "Sure heck ain't going to hurt," right? So we went to school break, and I came back, and we were having a meeting in the quad or something like that, or hanging out. And he goes, "Hey, Carlos wants to talk to you, Frank." All right, I'll talk to Carlos Perez, if you want to arrest him. But Carlos came up to me, and he goes, "Hey, Frank, I did what you said." I go, "Great." So I go over to Carlos's room, and we're sitting there on the beds or whatever, and he pulls out this bowling bag, puts it on the counter, and he goes, "Look at this." And I swear to God, I've been around the block 105 times. Maybe you guys have been 106. I don't care. But I never seen it. It was like a bowling ball of Colombian, Peruvian flake cocaine, unstepped on. It was a thing of beauty, man. It was just, oh my God, aha moment. Like when he opened up the bowling bag, like the light would come out, Whoa! Whoa! And so I just paused, but I wasn't agitated. I just paused, and I saw this is great. So I got a hold of some of the fraternity guys and a couple sorority sisters and friends, and we sat in this quad. I don't know, say about the same. Who cares? About 16 people in that room, right? And I was, the leader of the show here, because now I had the bowling bag. That's powerful. I mean, you got the bowling bag a blow. You feel powerful. Anyway, before anybody starts jonesing. So I would say, all right, you, Robert, you're in charge of the men's dorms. You got Christ Hall and all floors of Christ Hall. You could take you with them, and you guys could, work out a program, and you're going to distribute to Christ Hall, right? And then my buddy Scott, you're in charge of off-campus housing, You have commuters. You work the commuter parking lot. The girl, you're in charge of the sister sorority row, blah, 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 blah. And you can take a couple friends with you, and you work it, right? And we're sitting there, we're working out all our distribution process. And it was fine. It was sharp. I'm a business major. I got a distribution process, right? And so what happens is, 7 days later, the meeting was over. And that was the end of the Frank cartel. All right, like that. Well, everybody, I was talking like that for weeks. I have a friend, we're a lot older now, 30 years since college. But I have a friend, and he calls me up occasionally. He's sober. The rest are dead. But so after he's talking to me for 5 minutes, I don't know where I can go with this meeting, but I'm going. So if reviews, damn him. But so he calls me up. This is last week. We're talking about the Yankees or something like that. And every time he talks to me on the phone, he has to hang up and take a dump. I have this chemical reaction in him that he still thinks of me, and it makes him go to the bathroom. And I don't know if that's inappropriate, but it's just interesting. I think there you have it. There's some fun. Did you know? And I joked to him. Remember we used to talk to each other when we first got sober, and we would have to go to the bathroom. He goes, "Dude, I gotta take a shit." And I guess he did. But so I did that. I went on to college. I had my fellowship there, my friends, and I went on to another university after that, graduate school, and I didn't know anybody. I lost my popularity, but we find our people fast. That's one good thing. So for me, alcohol was the social lubricant. Heck, I kissed Kathy Claus. There's evidence right there. I was socially lubricated, right? And then I get to college and it's socially lubricant, and I was in charge of the bowling ball. That lasted a couple of weeks, but I was socially very active, socially, right? And drugs and alcohol was working for me. It's fun, man. And I'll get to this new school. I don't know anybody, but sooner or later, and this went back to New York, and drinking age was younger. So we go to this bar, and then I find out who the dealer is, and this, that, and the other thing, and wiggle my way in there through the fraternity. And boom, once again, getting just hammered every night. And I was starting to think, am I an alcoholic or a drug addict? I'm doing good in school. I'm a captain on the lacrosse team, and we won the Big East tournament. I'm doing all right. So the answer was no. So I eventually graduated, and I got a job. And actually what happened was I went to an employment fair with my friend. It was snowing out, and we always would stay a couple extra days. What's the rush to go home? We got a fraternity house here. We got the kegs. There's probably some blow somewhere. We got a huge bong. Howie Long gave me his bong. He goes, "Here you are, brother." When he left school, they canceled the football program. There was a year left. He was already been drafted by the Raiders, and he was the man, And I would meet him in the locker room. We got along, and Howie partied, And he would come to our parties, and he'd have his entourage always bring this, 4-foot bong or whatever, where you have to suck it up 3 times to get the smoke in there, and it boom away. And that was the Howie special. So I got Howie specialized one night, and we got in trouble. Blah blah blah. Let's get down to some more damage. All right. So after graduate school, I got recruited by General Motors, who was the #1 Fortune 500 company at the time. Oh, this guy's full of himself, is what he's saying. I fucked that up. Don't worry, all right? So there's no, I'm special, man. I'm the big example of ruining your life right here. This Mr. Ruined Life. So anyway, I had an opportunity. I had this girlfriend, we were dating for 2 years. She was beautiful. The Virginia, the whole thing I love. We were going to get married when we were out of school, and I wasn't ready for that. And I knew I wasn't ready for that. And her parents didn't want it, but she wanted that. So what I did was I moved to California. That's what you do when that happens, I was squared in, and I have an aunt and uncle who live down in San Juan Capistrano, near where I live now. And I drove across the country, following the Yankees across the country on a road trip, and I ended up in San Juan Capistrano. And then from there, I was working for a dealership at this time. All right, I'm going to zip forward. Due to time restraints, we're moving forward in the program. So I was working at this dealership, and they introduced me to this girl who worked for GM Financing, and she was beautiful, and she wanted to go out with me. We went out, and she partied with me, you know, and life was good. And we dated for a long time. I had a boat down at the river. We'd go back and forth to the river. We'd have big parties at my house. We had a lot of fun, you know, and we drank and snorted together, and it was just beautiful. You know, but and I tell you what was beautiful about it. She, now I don't know, this hot, right? J.C. Penney model or something like that. I don't know. You know, she is probably 21 and she's got the 15-year-old bathing suit on, all filled in. I don't know. I sort of made that part up just right now. You know, I don't know where J.C. Penney supermodel came from. It came from out my ass. All right, but anyway, so I got to be rigorously honest. So, but at 3, we'd be partying, right? And I had guys coming around. I had money, and we'd have guys coming around. But once in a while, the stuff would run out. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but here it is, like 3 or 4 in the morning. We're out, you know, and I got people over. They ain't leaving because they think stuff's hidden somewhere. So no one's leaving, right? That, oh, it's still here. I know what it is. But anyway, I had a dealer, and he had a girlfriend or wife, and she knew them through me. And she, at 4 in the morning, would get up, no questions asked, give her some money, she'd go get more blow and come back. No questions asked. She would do this on a regular basis. I married her. That's when you got that, man, you're holding on, you know. It doesn't get much better than this. So that didn't work out after a while, did it? And it's all my fault from drinking and drugging. But what happened was, you know, she had sobriety. I thought about getting sober. I knew I had problems, and I was part of this dealer group for a long time, and they bought our dealer group. And I was 16 years with them, and I got some of the, I don't know if you guys remember, well, no one here remembers. Maybe Auto Nation was buying up dealerships in Southern California. It was a big deal. And I was part of one of the biggest auto groups in Southern California at the time. And they bought us, and they gave me a piece of the pie. And it was a big piece of the pie. So there I am with my girlfriend, and wants all of a sudden for us to grow up and start a family or something silly like that, you know. Let's get real. You know, when we come in here, guys, first 4 words for a lot of you guys when you come in here, time to grow up. And I did not want to grow up. And as a matter of fact, some of us in here, including myself, we don't necessarily have the worst childhoods, the best childhoods, even, or just average childhoods, but we all want to have the longest childhood, you know, and I didn't want to grow up. I had the money. It was my stuff. You know, she left, but I held the door open. I don't know how to explain it, but to this day, I regret it. No big shotism there. I blew it. Imagine that. But anyway, so I went on a roll, and I was hitting it hard. And what happened was one day, now my girlfriend's bartending at Hennessy's. I don't know if that's up here or not, but there's a Hennessy's down in Dana Point that I would go to daily almost. Yeah, daily. And the bartender was, you know, some pretty bartender girl, and she became my girlfriend. I think I was her only boyfriend. I'm not sure, and I wasn't hiring a private investigator to find out either, you know, because it didn't matter. And I thought I was living on top of the world, and I felt like it. And one day I went into that bar, and I felt fine, you know. And one of my buddies goes, "Hey, Frank, you look like crap." I'm like, "Hey, you look like crap." I'm from the Bronx. Like, you look like crap. It's like, hello, I love you, you know. But so I have. And man, you don't look good. Everybody's hit me with these don't look good. And then I go Coors Light to my girlfriend, and she goes, "Honey, I can't serve you. You don't look good." And I'm like, so here I'm sort of hosed, right? Everybody's telling me I'm too sick to drink with, and I can't get served. So what I do, I walk across the parking lot there, and there's a quick medic, you know, one of those urgent cares. And I walk into the urgent care, and they're taking my vitals. And next thing I know, there's an ambulance outside. I'm in the ambulance, strapped down on the gurney, going to, the hospital changed names to South Laguna Beach Hospital. Let's call it that. And I'm there, and I get there, and the red light's going on, and I'm sitting there, and I'm not feeling great. I'm feeling worse every second now. And they're talking to me, and the red light's above my thing. No waiting for me. I just zip them right in. The red light's going there. I'm laying there. IVs to fill me full of, probably getting my vitamins right. I'm sure my blood levels were all screwed up. And next thing I know, they asked me if I'm, am I a man of faith? And I go, I was born Catholic. So now all of a sudden there's a priest in my room coming up from the monastery or the chapel, whatever. And he's, geez, I go, this dude's checking me out. And anything I want to discuss before what, Father, And I realized, I said with a lot of respect, I had some concerns at this point. Strapped down, red light, 20 people looking at you, and the priest. They had my attention. And I said, no, I think we're pretty good. Or I don't know what I said. But the next thing that happened was 9 hours later, I woke up in that same hospital, in a different room. I flatlined. I didn't see any red lights or nothing like that. And I came back, and I guess they got my blood levels right. One of my friends was there by my bed or something to that effect. And they said, you could take him home. They gave him some pills to stop shaking or freaking out. I don't know. Just give it to this guy, twice a day or whatever, and send him home. So my buddy said, I ain't going to give you take these things twice a day and have at it. But I didn't take him. But that was not the point. The point was he dropped me off at home. So I'm sitting at home, and I went in there about 10 a.m., and it was about 11 p.m. at night by the time I got home. And I'm watching Sports Center because I want to see how different teams have done, Mr. Sports guy. And, I bet on some games, and I want to see how the outcome of the games. I'm sitting there watching Sports Center, drinking a Evian bottle of water, and I'm thinking, this sucks. I'm sitting there by myself, watching TV, wondering about some games. I wonder what's going on down at the bar. Thought that something just came over me. I was curious what's going on down there. So I went down to the bar, and I walk in, and people, there's Frank. I go, hey, can I get, Roger was his name. Hey, Roger, can I get a Coors Light? He goes, no effing way, man. You were in here this morning, and they took you out of they strapped you down and took you to the hospital. You died at the hospital from too much drinking and drugging, and now you want me to serve you? I go, yeah, and give me a shot of Jaeger, too. And my mentality, talking about that grown-up thing, was I said to the bartender, someone nearby, don't you know I'm a party animal? That's what we said in college, we're party animals, sport drinking and power banging or whatever we would say. And I had the same mentality, yeah, you can't keep me down. It was so stupid. Eventually, so I went back home the next night, and I didn't try to stay sober. And I kept going back, and I kept drinking, and sooner or later, I developed a limp, all right? So I developed this limp, and I was a regular at that hospital. I'm not going to bore you with how many times back and forth. Hey, Frank, what are you doing here again? You're going to die if you keep drinking. When? But I had a limp, so I went in, and the doctor saw me. He goes, Frank, I need you to come back tomorrow. We'll check out that limp. So they put me in an MRI the next day, and it comes back after a couple more MRIs. It came back, and he goes, Frank, I got news for you. We need to replace both of your hips. I was like, what? He goes, yeah, you have a vascular disorder where there's no blood circulation around your hips, and they have deteriorated. You need bilateral hip replacement. And on the sheet, it says, due to drug abuse and alcoholism. So the reason I needed to get both of my hips replaced was because of my abuse of drugs and alcohol. So the moral of that story is, I literally drank my ass off, right? So you get the hipster part of your ass, and I drank them off. But anyway, so it wasn't that funny. But my friends go, Frank, man, that was one expensive bar bill. I didn't have insurance. I had to pay cash for it. It was a lot of money. So you would think that would get my attention, and it did for like 3 weeks. And then I was back, what the heck. The physical therapist girl was there, and at that time, after 10 days of being out of the hospital, you can call and ask them and try to, I don't know. I called her and asked her 10 days, hey, you want to go to sushi? She said, yes, that'd be great. I'll pick you up, blah, blah, blah. And we went out to have sushi. So now it's me, nervous, no social lubricant, nothing. I'm not drinking, hit a few meetings maybe. And I had in my hospital room, Bob and the Old Timers, the big book, the 12 and 12, and maybe something else, all AA related. It was obvious that, I was like an AA banner out front of my room, and I'm in there. But we went out, and we're sitting there, And she goes, and I said, why don't you order, blah, blah, blah. She goes, what are you having to drink? I think I'm having an iced tea. She goes, really? Just an iced tea? I'm like, yeah. And meanwhile, I'm sitting there with this girl that's, the promises come true right there in front of me. And so after she nudged me, and she was persistent. So I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to have a large Sapporo. I get the 2 little glasses there. We'll split that. I got her a thing of, I don't know, kamikaze or sake, that's what they call it. It's sake. She got the thing of sake, whatever the hell she wants, she can have, right? And we're eating. And I had my little glass hidden behind something or other, so I'm not drinking. And then so like halfway through the meal, she goes, rubs my arm or something. Yeah, you're going to make me drink alone? And whoop, F that. It was payphones back then. I was going to call my sponsor. I went to use the restroom, had a quarter for the thing. Something happened, I never made that call. Or I made the call and he didn't answer. But I came back and I had that little Sapporo glass of beer, And I didn't get wasted that night. We had a great time. We saw each other after that. But what I did is I let the lion out of the cage. I don't know how many people here we let the lion out of the cage. It won't burn me here this time, and here's how. So, I didn't have any program at that point. But so I said, well, the small glass experiment worked pretty well. So we went on again. And, the full Coors Light experiment went well. And then the 6-pack before I pick her up, and the big bottle of wine and shots galore when it was going over pretty well. And we ended up getting along pretty well. She moved in for a while, but then she got a call from a U.S. ski team to go be a physical therapist for them, and she was gone, and I wasn't invited, and that was it. Drunk, back where I was left off, but I didn't. So that was going on so there's a whole bunch in there where Frank's day looks like this. Wakes up, I need a beer, I'm going to go down to Hennessy's where all my friends are, my dealers, my girlfriend bartender, and my phony baloney friends that I only know their first number, or they might even be just head nod bases, hey, all my friends, and I gotta have it. Then I can get a 39-cent Carl's Jr. burger down. I get there, have a few more beers, and I'd be fine. I was doing that every day for a few years in a row. And one day, it was Labor Day. I remember it was Labor Day and Labor Day weekend. And, I hung out with this Hennessy's crowd, and they were throwing the Labor Day party on a Friday because Labor Day they would be super busy working. So the Labor Day party on Friday, I attended it for several years in a row, and I was the bikini contest judge, which was pretty nice. So it was just a way of saying thanks for wasting all your money here your whole life. And I was that person. I felt hot shit about that. And anyway, so Friday 10:30, everybody's going to pick me up from the bars. It's going to be great. Frank, be ready at 10:30. We're going to pick you up. And we're going to go. Wait. So what do? Because I left out the fact that I'm a liar, a BSer, self-promoter. So my friend gave me this surfboard, a 7/8 Channel Island or something like that. Doesn't mean anything to me, but he gave it to me. And I would take that. I took the board out. I cleaned it, and I bought wax so I could wax it in front of people while I'm down at the beach. I'm from the Bronx, barely half good on a skateboard, right? But I had this pickup truck, and I'd put my surfboard in the back. I'd get there, we pull up, music, boom, 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 Mr. Cool, put down the surfboard, and I would do that all the time, Never touch that surfboard. I might play horseshoes till the freaking crows came in. I don't know what happened. But so there I was. I got my surfboard, and they said, okay, well, we're picking up at 10:30, so I'm all ready. I'm 10:30. I've been running for a few years now. 10:30, doorbell rings, knock, knock. I open up the door, and boom. Intervention. Oh, fuck. I'm going to go be the bikini contest judge. You hold this off for a few hours, Boom. But one day, intervention, man. And then in front of me was my family, my friends, my drug dealers, my girlfriend, the runners for the bookie. Everybody was there. Everybody I knew said, Frank, you're killing yourself. You're done. And I don't remember giving myself permission. I do not recall giving myself, but my lips moved and said, okay. Don't remember how that happened, and it was quick. I said, okay, and they took me off to this place called Charlie Street, it's Costa Mesa, basically homeless shelter for drunks, 3 hots in a cot. And the first night there was really hot, and I remember the fans going, and I seized up, went to Hoag Hospital, flatlined, and 7 days later, they let me out of there. And what happened was, when I left in 7 days, as they were saying goodbye and stuff like that, it was heartbreaking. But when I was saying goodbye to the staff there, they gave me They gave me a walker. Now, I know this general age group, the demographic here, all knows what walkers are today. Well, years gone past, let me tell you some old glory stories here. Walkers are not what they were then as like they are now. But what happened is they came out with this walker. First time I've ever seen anything like this thing. It's this beautiful red walker. They even put a little bell on it for me. And the seat flipped over. You could sit on it when you get a little tired. It had brakes. When you stop, you could put a thing down and then your walker wouldn't move. It had big rubber wheels in the back, like 60s for a motor NASCAR, and the little wheels up front. And I had this red walker. It was a diamond. It was the Bentley of walkers. And they said, good luck, buddy. Here's your walker. Gotta go. So the boys from Charlie Street picked me up. I get back, and I got my brand new walker, and they're taking me. I'm taking me in again, incoming, whatever you want to say. And the guy's looking at me, and we're talking, and something happened. I lost my balance. I had vertigo, and I was wearing Depends because I was pooping my pants. I left a lot out. So I lost control of the walker, whacked my head on the intake table. I still got the scar today. Seized up, flatline, dropped dead again, back to Hoag. This is my third freaking flatline. Pardon me, I don't want to be swearing, it's bad. Third flatliner, because I know you guys have never heard those words, but I want to keep it clean. So anyway, I hit him again, and like 2 days later, I come out of this coma again at Charlie Street, and the guys are there to take me home. So they pull up with their pickup truck, and we're getting in the truck and leaving. I'm like, hey, what about my walker? And I see like the director of the detox, I don't know whatever it was, but the head nurse lady there, the mean one, and I go, where's my walker? And people go, hey, Frank had his walker. Where's Frank's walker? And she goes, oh, you want your walker, do you? Something. I didn't like her tone. It rubbed me the wrong way. Evidently she didn't know who I thought I was. But she goes, okay, slow down, right? So one of these techs, I don't know, not knocking anybody if that's what you do, that's cool. But one of you guys brought me my new walker, right? So I'm waiting in the back of the pickup truck here for my walker to reappear. And here it comes. 2 aluminum poles bent over, all right? Got the bar across with the wing nut to tighten it up. That's loose, so it jiggles a little bit. And on the bottom, no wheels, 4 tennis balls. So I got my aluminum walker with the 4 tennis balls, the thing up front shaking like a leaf. I just dropped dead for the second freaking time in 2 weeks, bandaged up like who knows what, and they go, there's your walker. And okay. I didn't say, whatever I said isn't worth saying here. But it wasn't, thank you. It was probably in my head. But anyway, so I get back to the Charlie Street where they're taking me in again, and I'm sitting there. I'm all bandaged up. I got IV bandages from falling down. I got stitches in my head. I got elbows all bandaged up from falling down. I couldn't stand. It was vertigo. For time restraints, good stories there, but we're going to leave them out. So anyway, I get back, and I sat down in front of this guy, and I remember this vividly right now. He goes, Frank, guess what? Mr. I'm really happy to be alive guy. What? He goes, Frank, I got news for you. The war's over, and you lost. Boom. And I thought about it. And I don't know if any of you have thought about it, but because you try to avoid morbid reflection, but I thought about it. All the things, all the opportunities, all the relationships, all the financial prosperity, all the education, relationships, family, friends, wives, girlfriends, everything, absolutely every fiber in my entire existence, I destroyed for the bottle and the bag. You know, now that I'm a little removed from it, it seems very stupid. But when you're there, it seems to make sense. And I was like, yeah, whatever. But you know what? After he left and came back, and from that, what happened to me, that wasn't this white light that came through the skies or anything like that. But I realized, I had actually thought something that was honest for once. I realized right then and there, when he came back, and I'm sitting there with chitty chitty bang bang in a plastic bag with a couple of jeans in it, I knew right then and there that I wanted to get sober. And the reason I wanted to get sober was because I saw this program working in other people's lives. They say we need a program of depth and weight to convince us to get sober, you know, no matter how far down the scale we've gone. And I went down there, and I wanted to get sober. And they tell us that's the only requirement for membership, a desire to stop drinking, you know. And I wanted to get sober. I saw people who I thought much less of me at that bar. I ain't going to say losers, nobody's a loser. But people who I thought much less of get sober. And I saw their lives getting better. Miracles in front of my own eyes. While they were going in this direction, I was free falling in this direction. So I knew this program worked. And I said, you know what? I want to get sober. And I haven't had a drink since then. And that was 17 years ago or something like close to that. It was Labor Day weekend, 2007. 16 years, months. So that Labor Day weekend was when I got sober, and I haven't had a drink since. And man, they were the biggest things that I know. There's a transition from when I first, after I walked out of there, I strolled out of there with Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and my new titanium hips. So I got titanium hips. They had to replace the soccer thing in my shoulder. So, you know, if you want to know, I travel a lot for work. I beep. I am one beeping mofo. If you think you guys go through and everyone's, oh my God, I beeped, and you're shocked, if I don't beep, I'm shocked. I'm a beeper, man. I have titanium hips, femurs, elbows, sockets, joints in my shoulders. I got all this prosthetics. I have all these metal prosthetics in my body, and I beep, man. I go to a Ducks game, and I'm freaking beeping before they even check you before you beep. You know? And if I was standing here and there was a magnet on that piano right there, it'd fly off that piano and stick to my freaking ass. But that's besides the point. But that didn't stop me, right? But I wanted to get sober. And what do you know? I had to get from physical sobriety. Maybe some of us here tonight are physically sober. Maybe 30, 60, 90 days, more. You know, physically sober meaning you're not drinking and drugging. But that was, you know, that was good. But it wasn't enough, because we need a sufficient replacement for drugs and alcohol. And that's exactly what the program of Alcoholics Anonymous has provided me and countless others. So I needed to go from physical sobriety, where I'm not drinking and drugging, not too excited about it, edgy, barking, you know, bad mood guy, restless, irritable, and discontented guy. And then I needed to go from physical sobriety to emotional sobriety. And when the transference for me from going from physical sobriety to emotional sobriety was liking the fact that I was sober, you know? And that has happened to me. And the reason why it happened to me is because I found a higher power. And in the big book, it tells us in numerous places, but I'll recite a couple lines. It tells us, you know, here we have 1,000 men and women. It could be 100, could be a million. It doesn't matter. There's more people now. 1,000 men who flatly declare, even though their life was complete shambles and ruined and destroyed, and they have returned their position in society, and they became rich and wealthy and happy again. I don't know what the words are, all right? But the point is, and here they are, and they flatly declare they have been able to do this because they have found a power greater than themselves that could help solve them all their problems. And that's on page 13. I know I don't know word to word, but I know where it is, because I like bringing that one out. And then he tells you later on in the agnostics, you know, lack of power. That's our dilemma. But where will we find such a power? Where can we find this power? And then it says, the next line is, well, that's exactly what this book is about. This program for me. Everybody can be different. Complain to me after the meeting. My experience is, the most important thing in my life today, without a doubt, without a freaking even thought about it, is my personal relationship with my Creator. And I do what's outlined in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it says, you know, upon awakening, you know, these are definite instructions, definite suggestions. 5 minutes, 5 minutes. If I could cut it in 4, make everybody really pumped. Because I hate that. Well, I got 5 minutes, so fuck it. So, I hate like there's a speaker up there and they're driving you, boring, they're killing you, and it's just horrible. And something that goes 15 minutes, it goes, okay, I'll go 15 more minutes. I'm like, no, dude, you could stop. I hope that's not me, but I'm going to keep rolling because God is the most important thing in my life. Here's an example. If someone came up to anybody, I would say a person sitting there, I don't want to pinpoint anybody, freak anybody out. Someone came up to this person with a whole nice, beautiful bouquet of flowers, right? Hey, do you like these flowers? Do you love these flowers? And they go, yeah, they're beautiful flowers. May I have them? Of course you can have them. All right? So you love that bouquet of flowers, right? No, I didn't ask that girl or guy. Doesn't matter, right? 2024. Cis male, I could give a shit. I really could care freaking less. But you don't wait on, when you get that bouquet of flowers, no one's in this program, Alcoholics Anonymous, no one's saying you have to pick out one flower that you like more. In other words, you don't have to pick a religion. That was my biggest thing, man. I couldn't get the difference between religion and spirituality. They're night and day. It's not the same thing. Alcohol has nothing to do with the religion that may have been imposed upon you in your childhood. And if that's what you like, party on. If not, party harder, So you got to remember, the spirituality is just you and this creator of your own making. So I was told one time, Frank, I tell my guys, well, what do you want out of your sobriety in life, right? So, gentleman X over here, he goes, well, Frank, I want to stay sober for the rest of my life. I want my wife and my family back. I want a good job that makes a lot of money. I want a nice boat. Well, there's that song, money won't buy me love, better buy me a boat, and buy me a truck to pull it with. I do a lot of work in Oklahoma, and so in Oklahoma, you know what fucking song that is. But anyway, so the point is, I create my own higher power of my own understanding. So he makes this list of all these things he wants us sobriety. I go, boom, hired. That's your God. What do you mean? That your God is going to help you get all those things that you want. Pray to that God. He goes, what do I call it? Call it things. Call it things. Some people call God spirit. No one says God has to be a man. It has to be a woman. It could be the sunlight. It could be anything you freaking want. But you can't let your ideas and your thoughts and your genius that got you here listening to me in this freaking Liberace jacket, all right? Listening to me telling you what's going on. But what's worked for me is I found that power greater than myself. It's a want ad, right? God wanted requirements. Wants me to be all-powerful, wants me to have a wonderful life, is forgiving, wants to help me be successful, wants me to have a beautiful house, a beautiful wife, beautiful boat, beautiful this. He wants me to have a kick-ass, happy, joyous, and free freaking life beyond my wild beliefs. Boom, hired. Hire that God, pray to that God, whatever it looks like to you. Just give it a chance. I'm going to show you something. I know that a lot of us in here, including myself, spent a lot of time. I put a lot of time, a lot of hard work, and a lot of money into ruining my life. I mean, I went all in, all in. Brand new hips, let's go have a drink. I'm all in, So when we ask you to come and join this program, we don't want alcohol coming in. So I'm going to show you how little I started out with. It's 13 seconds. Get up, get on my knees. I humble myself to a power greater than myself, whatever it may be, but it freaking works. I get down on my knees, I say the serenity prayer, boom, do that in 9 seconds. God, please keep me sober. Please help me do the right thing today. Please direct my thinking. Please help me help you, help others, blah, blah, blah. Please, God, let's stay sober and have a great day. Boom, I'm up and out of it. That's 13 seconds. And at night, thank you for my sobriety. Same thing, another 13 seconds. 26 seconds out of your day will change your life beyond your wildest belief. But you have to be willing to do that. And I'm going to wrap it up with this one. In my book, it tells us right around page 62 and a half, three lines below that. It says, we have to be alert to things that block us from the sunlight of the Spirit. They call it the Father of Light in the Big Book. So I'm on constant alert for things that are going to block the sunlight of the Spirit from my happy, joyous inner resource that's given to God, and where it says on page 133 that God's will for us is to be happy, joyous, free, to have a life beyond the wild streams. That's what God wants for me. So I have to stop. I have to black out everything that blocks that. And that is worrying. One of those things is worrying about what everybody else is doing. Yeah. Oh, what's she doing? Who's she trying? She's trying to sleep with him? What's he trying to do? She's got 5 days. What's he talking to me for? Blah, blah, blah. And he's an asshole. You know what he said? Blah, blah, blah. All that other stuff. All that other stuff. Baloney, man. You just focus on yourself and your sobriety. Block out, lying, it blocks it, so that's an eclipse. Stealing is an eclipse. Cheating on your girlfriend, boyfriend, significant other, whatever, all things that block you from the sunlight of spirit. You got to work every day on the things not letting you block you from the sunlight of spirit. And that's when you're doing that, you're on the AA beam. And when you're on the AA beam, you got a force field around that freaking Star Trek Enterprise that nobody's getting through. No one's pissing you off. And like on the way up here today, even though I'm excited to be here, still am, you worry about Chuck Chamberlain once said, what do you do about traffic? And he goes, Frank, I get great pleasure out of knowing I can only drive one car at a time. So if you're here tonight, guys, remember, you are in charge of you one day at a time. Don't let all that other crap do this. If you work this program the way you want, we're going to come down to 1 minute left. So, here it is. It says, here we are at the crossroads. We can either go this way, continue drinking drunk, demoralized, psychotic, talking to telephone poles, eating donuts out of trash cans with flies on them, pooping in our pants, peeing in our shorts, walking around delirious to a miserable, incomprehensible frickin' death. Or we could pick up these spiritual toolkits and have the greatest lives beyond our wildest imagination. And that's not an easy choice for us alcoholics. But please trust me, if you do this program, your life's going to get freaking fantastic. And if you don't, it's going to suck more. All right? So thanks for having me. Have a good night. Thank you.
I'd like to thank our speakers. I would like to thank our speakers, Scott and Frank.